Balance is one of the core themes in Avatar. The Avatar himself is one who must travel around the world, gaining the knowledge, teachings, and wisdom from all the other nations to bring balance to the world. The Avatar is someone who has all the power in the world. I talked extensively about Aang's journey to balance in a previous video of mine. Who I want to focus on today is Iroh. Iroh was born heir to the throne, destined to become the next Fire Lord. The man destined to have all the power in the world. Iroh was on track to becoming a legend. He was going to be the one to finally put an end to the war. What his father started, he would conclude. Upon doing this, he would become a god amongst his people. But then, something happened. Something tragic. On his way to Ba Sing Se to conquer the Earth Kingdom, his son, Lu-Ten, died. Iroh realized the world didn't play favorites and that everyone was vulnerable. After this, Iroh started his own self-improvement journey. He gave up everything he had going for him. He gave up his status and acknowledgement from an entire nation. It isn't quite clear exactly what happens after this, but whatever did seem to have made Iroh the tea-loving spiritual man we love him for today. In the Firebending Masters, we find out how firebending is life and energy incarnate. Its primal roots reveal how it was originally a beautiful art fueled by passion and willpower. By nature, this makes it a double-edged sword. Passion on one end can be anger, rage, and hate. But on the other end, passion could be intense enthusiasm, an unwavering heart, and unconditional love. Ozai was the embodiment of the perverted art firebending had become. It's no longer an extension of who you are, but a military weapon of mass destruction. Iroh was the opposite in that he represents what firebending was meant to be. Firebending, and bending in general, is an extension of one's being, not a weapon. With that in mind, after Lu-Ten died, Iroh knew his path was not to become the Fire Lord. And this once proud man who had it all humbled himself to the level of an outcast. This aspect of Iroh really intrigues me. Iroh going from a prince to now an everyday citizen is a sacrifice that most of us aren't willing to make. But not only does he do this gracefully, but he actually prefers this new life. When Zuko and Iroh were living alone, Zuko still clung on to his old life and believed he deserved it all, whereas Iroh was just enjoying himself. He was able to find solace in the simple things life has to offer. In a world where everyone just wants more and more, bigger and better things, Iroh's philosophy is in direct contrast.
Water brings healing and life, but fire brings only destruction and pain. It forces those of us burdened with its care to walk a razor's edge between humanity and savagery. Fire is alive. It breathes. It grows. Without the bender, a rock will not throw itself. But fire will spread and destroy everything in its path if one does not have the will to control it.
The Fire Nation is a very proud nation. They have their own national anthem and worship their fascist dictator. In their mind, they were the only nation that mattered, the rightful rulers of the world. Because Iroh was able to step back from this philosophy, he was able to develop a technique that allowed him to redirect lightning. To help contextualize my point, Iroh was one of the strongest benders of his time who had no business mulling around with lowly waterbenders. He had good reason to believe that there was nothing he could learn snooping around with their art and culture, but it was because of his humility that he was able to take the waterbending principles and apply it to firebending. Pride is what keeps us ignorant. If we feel like we know something, there's no need for us to learn more, right? This is something I've recently started to think about in my own life. Just because I don't play sports or I don't like school doesn't mean I can't apply what I've learned from those into my videos. This is actually what led to the development of many videos on my channel.
It is important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements, And the other nations will help you become whole.
Pride is seen as something we should have in modern society. Feel good about yourself, be proud of who you are. These may not be bad principles in and of themselves if you think superficially, but it rides a very fine line. It's okay to see yourself as better at certain things than others, but we ride a slippery slope when we start to believe that we are better than other people. No religion, political opinion, or even success in life makes you a better person than someone else. Period, dot, finish, end of discussion. In fact, it's the people who believe they're less than perfect who are the ones who are able to acknowledge their evil potential. It's the people who believe they could do no wrong that end up being the most dangerous. Having pride removes their ability to introspect and feel guilt. A practical example is how people who think they're the best drivers are usually the ones who are highest at risk of an accident. In war times, it was the young and innocent who ended up being the most ruthless in combat. One scene I found extremely scary on a recent rewatch was a scene where Team Avatar looks at a picture of Ozai thinking it was Zuko and commenting on how cute and helpless he looks, only to realize that it was actually just a picture of baby Ozai. I don't want to dip too deep into the whole nature versus nurture debate, but this goes to show that depending on the circumstance and conditions, you'll never know just what type of person someone will grow up to be. Pride will limit you to a world of possibilities. Even when you have good reason to believe you're above someone, you can't think of yourself as more than them. Humble people seek to learn as much from a fool as from a sage. They see everyone as an expert on something, and as a result, humility often leads to greater understanding and wisdom. Most prideful people tend to compare themselves to others. They are the ones who don't consider themselves good enough unless they're better than others at something. Conversely, once they feel they're better, they see no reason to continue improving. This mindset is fixed and closed off to the possibilities. They will only continue to improve if they feel their status is threatened. Contrast this with humility. Humility, at its core, is the belief that no matter how much you think you know, there's always something you don't know. It's the understanding that even your most cherished beliefs could be wrong. It goes with the willingness to change those beliefs if it seems clear that they're wrong. If you become the best while staying humble, you'll still be able to learn from others, which not only will make you better, which will not only make things a lot less stressful, but is a much more sustainable lifestyle.
Sometimes the best way to solve your own problems is to help someone else.
Look at all the problems this has caused in the world today. Wars are fought over the concept of ideals that are held as being more important than people. This is why pride is considered to be the worst of the 7 deadly sins. I understand North America hasn't had a war on their grounds in centuries, so let's take a more relevant example. Politics. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not really going to be talking about the specifics of politics, but rather just the philosophy of the sort of mob mentality people have when talking about it, or essentially partisan beliefs that just divides the country so strongly. There's this pervasive idea roaming around the political sphere that those opposing your political view are of less value, that they are worse in some way than you are. Liberal versus conservative, Democrat versus Republican, left-wing versus right-wing, etc. But it shouldn't be this way. Neither side is perfect and they both have valid points. You should listen to what they both have to say and make your own judgment. Humble people seek to find alternative truths. If there is a disagreement between 2 options, the rational thing to do is to look for a third option that both parties can agree on. If we take capital punishment for example, both sides want to deter crime. Whether you believe killing the criminals or sending them to jail will be more effective doesn't matter. Both sides are trying to solve the same problem. There is no reason to hold strong feelings against the other side. The prideful think of the humble as wishy-washy, indecisive, and having low self-esteem. Think of how Ozai threw Iroh under the bus to become the Fire Lord. But in reality, humble people are considerate, thoughtful, and confident enough in their abilities that they don't need to compare themselves to others. They often end up knowing more than prideful people do. Ozai may have the firepower necessary to beat anyone in the series, but there were 2 times he was unable to land a lethal blow on his opponent. and this was directly because he lacked the knowledge Iroh gave his two combatants. This is why it is so important for the Avatar to travel around the world to gain knowledge from everyone, all the nations, regardless of the circumstance. They, in a way, humble themselves to each nation, balancing their strengths and weaknesses, culminating in the ultimate bender. The Avatar is the one bender for all the people, thus he must live as they do. This is why the Avatar state is supposed to be a last resort, not some cheat code. It's a defense mechanism only to be used when absolutely necessary, not to be abused. And this is what a 10-year-old children's cartoon taught me about pride and humility. Thank you for watching. Sorry this wasn't your conventional analytical type video. I was using Avatar and Iroh as a surface to bounce off my big ideas about pride and humility, which overall encompasses what I feel to be Iroh's philosophy. Expect a more conventional analytical video soon. Alright, peace.